Good. She sent it. Oh, did you?
Mhm.
Okay.
It was towards the end of the day, but yeah, I got them out.
Okay.
It might have been right at 5. But I know I didn't get out of here right at 5 last night, but
Oh, there we are. Additional packet items.
I think everybody's in.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Back now. I don't know what happened. We just lost it for a minute.
Okay. So I'll ask any visitors to be heard. Hearing none. Andy.
I had two items that were going to be on there. One was I was going to talk to you about establishing a rate for transportation of prisoners for other counties or the state. As you're probably aware, we're housing inmates for State Department of Corrections, and we're working on a contract with the marshals, which I have a conversation scheduled with them today. We'll see where that goes. We're also housing for Bonham County quite a bit lately. And well, one thing is these inmates all have medical requests. We're working on RFP for healthcare in the facility, but even if we do get that, there's still going to be times we're going to be transporting prisoners across town to the doctor, which we're doing quite a bit these days. I just feel that the Department of Corrections should be reimbursing us for our time taking these people over there. So I was going to recommend that we just establish a prisoner transport rate at $25 an hour and then mileage at the state rate or a $5 minimum.
See any issue with that? You mentioned we're housing a lot of state prisoners and
Yep.
that, you know, by my estimation, that seems like a good thing for the county. I know that I recently saw a resolution that one of the counties passed. It was taking some beef with the reimbursement rates, but
Yeah.
they work fine for us, right? They're pretty much.
Yeah, as it happens, the state, it's been a couple of years. They said, okay, counties, regardless of what you say, we're going to only pay you $95 a day. Well, that's
We're
our
okay
rate.
with that.
And so we at this point, we're not arguing with them about that. Minnehaha counties, well, their rate is somewhere in $130 a day. And so they're saying, they're losing money on this, having these people there. So I think that they've worked out a graduated deal. So for so many days, they charge their own rate and then they drop it down. There's going to be legislation considered next session to change the DOC's formula to where we don't have to go to the legislature to set the rate that they'll reimburse, and they'll be based on the county's actual costs. And then they don't have to go to the legislature each time to change that. So at this point, we're all good. I think we'll probably talk in January again when you set rate for next year of what our rate ought to be. I just kind of looked at my budget for 2027 isn't set, but once it is, I guess, I kind of did some math and just trying to look at our our target population in the jail, we're 95 is too low. If you look at what our annual budget is divided by the number of inmates, divided by the number of days, and the daily rate should be somewhere like $140 if we're going to consider it that way. So we might reconsider the 95 next year, but at this point, the DOC rate that they say they'll pay is 95. Now they'll pay more, I suppose, if they need the bed. But at this point, it matches the number that we've established.
But
Seems
for
like the way
this,
to go.
you wanted 25 an hour for the
Yeah,
transport.
yep,
Plus my edge, that seems reasonable.
yeah. And it's not exorbitant. It's, typically we don't use deputies on overtime, so it's on the lower end of some of the salaries we have, because as it happens, those happen on day shift. Tends to be senior staff doing the transport, which they make a little more than that. But it seems reasonable to go with $25.
Plugging state rate mileage.
Yeah.
The minimum of is 5 enough.
Well, for civil process, we charge a minimum of 10 for that. Civil process statute allows us to charge, I forget the number of cents over the state mileage rate, which the state mileage rate now is set to the IRS rate. So it can change. So I didn't know if we wanted to go with, and I don't know if we could, because statute allows us to go higher for the civil process, but I just figured we'd go with the state rate. But we could certainly have a minimum. It's a mile across town, mile back, give or take, say probably 3 miles for the round trip. So what is it, 80 some cents a mile or 70 some cents a mile these days? Yeah. So $5 covers it.
Seems reasonable. I wanted to make sure that I understood correctly. So if currently with our current expenses at the jail, if we had our target population and you divided out what the I guess break even point would be for a nightly rate for the prisoners, it's more like in the range of $140.
That's looking at 2027's budget.
Okay.
And I didn't do the same math with this year's budget. And I didn't do that when we set the rate in January. We did it kind of comparing ourselves to other counties.
Yeah.
Because at that time, our population was, 10 or 12. And, if you really look at that, with that few inmates with our costs, it's probably $250 an inmate, and so the more inmates we have, the better economy we have there. So we're hoping between DOC, other counties, and then the U.S. Marshals that we can try to maintain an inmate population of around 40. And I think that gives us the best economy on that, and also it gives us a better meal rate. And we function and flow well that way. We don't want to be any higher. Lower than that, we're just, we have a lot of empty beds that I'd like to keep full.
Trying to recollect, in an earlier meeting, did you say that the marshals also have a different rate as well?
You have to negotiate the rate with them. And we're kind of there. We're in that negotiation. At this point, I proposed to them the 95, which is what we established. And then, for them, they have requirements for transport that you have to transport with 2 officers, and one of them has to be armed. And I think I put something like $45 an hour for transport rate for them is what my pitch was. And we'll see what they come back with on that. They've been trying to connect with me on a phone call for a couple of days. It just seems like the person that is reaching out is never available the days I'm available. And I think we're looking at this afternoon or late this morning to have a conversation. And
Do you think your rate's gonna change after January 1st?
I'll probably recommend it. I think,
So should you mention that to the marshals right now?
Oh, yeah.
Negotiate?
yeah, we're just talking about today with
Yeah.
them now. Essentially, as it turned out, we're looking, they're considering our request for a contract a rate increase, because we had a contract with the marshals in the early 90s. And we haven't used it since then, and the rate was like $35 then. So when I told them we'd need 90, because they wanted to know, well, it's been a bit of a process. You do it all online, and we were going through the process, and then they rejected it because we weren't looking for a new contract. We were looking for an increase because we had kind of forgotten all about this old deal that we used to have. But anyway, so that's where we're at. It's just pursuing a contract today at the current rate. But we'll definitely renegotiate when our rates change. And I think that we'd be able to defend an increase.
So we need a motion to approve the,
Okay, I move to approve the transfer fees as recommended by Andy.
second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And just for clarification, $25 with
An hour.
An hour with a minimum of either the state rate mileage or $5.
Correct. We might eventually go to Yankton with somebody.
Is that $25 an hour per man?
You know, that's a good
In
point.
case-
I think that's
in
fair
case we
because
have somebody that
Yep.
is a risk.
that's a good point. I think that would be a reasonable amendment to that because we might have two people go some. It's rare, but it could happen.
And for my clarity, so that's per officer. Yep, not per inmate. Yep.
Yep, I agree.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion passes. Information about the COSSUP grant.
Yeah,
application.
COSUP grant. Start with I have it written out. COSUP stands for Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Program or Substance Use Program. This is a grant we started pursuing a couple of years ago. We didn't pursue it because we didn't have space for the person to work in our old jail. Then the next year when we got in a new jail or when we're getting close to it, the grant went away. And so we didn't apply for it. I was working on getting, this is all steered toward, I was trying to get a person, jail programs director, somebody in the jail to try to basically make it to where people don't keep coming back. Typically call it like a reentry program, meaning reentry into the community, not into the jail. And so different avenues for that would involve, steering people toward treatment. Sometimes maybe just some good advice on, how to get their car, how to not find your way back in jail in 2 or 3 days. But GEDs, other employment, things like that our staff just don't have the time to take with each person. I see this person sitting in on court, becoming knowledgeable about each person's journey in the jail, how they're getting through the court. And I don't want them to be an advocate for that inmate. They're not going to be their lawyer and they're definitely going to represent the county in any sort of conversations. But I did have this request in my 2026 budget and it didn't make it. And so because there wasn't any grant, I put it in anyway and didn't make it. So the grant exists again. So we started pursuing it and Travis did sign off on it, but I haven't talked to you folks about it. The position it would create is not in my 2027 budget request. We don't know if we're going to get the grant. We're just waiting. And these days, I just don't know if the grant's going to exist next month or not. So there are some large grant opportunities in the big, beautiful bill that, it seems like the law enforcement related grants through the BJA seem to have to do a lot with border protection and not something like this. But we have the application in. It hasn't been denied. It would create, besides the position I'm talking about, would assist the state's attorney's office with diversion, or is that correct? Okay, and then it's the grant is $1 million over 3 years, so it's almost no obligation from us other than managing it. In fact, the grant funds the person to manage it, and so. But there are a lot of aspects to it. Besides the what I want to do in the jail, that person would definitely steer people toward opioid dependence issues, treatment, NA in the community, requires us to work on law enforcement training on drug addiction and investigation, A-RIDE, things like that. We would put more prescription medicine drop boxes in the community than the one we have at the jail, which to my knowledge is the only one in the community right now. Things like that. I've got some notes here, but we'd work on recovery and detox in the jail, ideally with telehealth, working more partnership with the Core Center, mentioned NA. I guess I have kind of mentioned everything, but that has that, but
Will it be available for juvenile programs also?
Yeah, that was the purpose of my office kind of being involved, as you'll see down on 3D, there's a request for support for the juvenile diversion coordinator
it's
grant
just not-
application. We're getting ready to start. July 1 will be year 3 of our 3-year state grant. So July of 2027, we no longer have state funding, which has been covering all of the expenses from the coordinator themselves to their benefits to all the programming. So kind of hitching on to what Andy's group is doing made a lot of sense, because we could try to utilize that same system, that same grant, to try to integrate some funding for juvenile diversion and even some young adult diversion that we've been doing, but primarily focused on juvenile diversion.
Okay, so it's not just an add-on.
Correct.
It's covers everything. Okay.
And bringing it to your attention now, because it's not in my 2027 budget, because I didn't want to put it in there. It's a lot of money. And to put in the budget and then, then not do it. If, I don't even know how you'd manage that. If we didn't get the funding, we just, of course, obviously amend the budget or whatever you do. I don't know what we'll do if we get notified. Well, obviously, if we get notified today that we're getting the funding, we could talk before you finalize the budget. But if it already happens, I assume we would just do supplements and we'd have this additional revenue to cover that. I just didn't want that to be the first you heard about this.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions about that. It's kind of a big grant, but, and it's gonna be a lot of work to manage it, but it hires the person to do that. And that way I see it, the person in the jail is gonna be doing that.
Yep, seems like it has broad benefits. I really hope we get it, and yeah. Glad you built in the physical space. plan
Yeah,
that
yeah,
into
we did the
into
plan
jail.
ahead for
Yep.
that and, just you look at the issues we deal with, it's just these days almost 100%, addiction based. All of the crime we deal with, it seems like almost always is dealing with addiction, and we just got to get some more avenues to get people to where they, make them wanna quit using and give them the tools to do it if they make that choice.
Yeah, we talked about 1 to have 40 prisoners in there, but I'd much rather have 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be great if there just were no prisoners put
Yep.
in there, but I don't think that we're anywhere near that day.
But it's a good step in the right direction. Thanks for pursuing this. It's sure a lot of work.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
That's all I think.
Brent? Got gas quotes.
Move to approve the bid from Vaughn Oil for the squads.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
It's just for the county shop, right?
Yep.
No.
And move to approve the low bid for, oh wait, we gotta vote.
Yeah. we already
Sorry.
did it. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Diesel quotes.
I had one for Vermillion, which I'm sure which one. She gets both of them to Wakanda here.
Looks like Jerry's for the county. Move to approve Jerry's service out of Hartington for.
Yep.
Highway shops, diesel.
Hopefully those prices stay. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes.
These don't these both look like they say Clay County Highway Wakanda Shop?
Yeah,
They do.
No. Oops.
but yeah, Jerry's did get the Vermillion one.
Okay.
So,
Approve verdicts for Wakanda shop then for diesel.
Yep.
okay,
Okay, so the last one was wrong.
that was not,
Yeah.
yeah.
The last one's heading was wrong, but it sounds like, Brent, you're saying that is for the Vermillion
Yep,
shop.
that was for
Okay,
the
that was-
Vermillion shop.
And I
Okay.
think if there is confusion on that, just make sure that they agree with that. And if there is, then just come back.
Yep,
So now that was a Vermillion shop.
yep,
County
Jerry's got
shop.
Vermillion.
What'd you say, Kevin?
Move to approve verdicts, low bid.
That was for a 344 gallon.
Does that make sense? I'm just, I was just looking at the Brunix service being 354 for the Wakanda shop.
But if you look at the top where the X is, that's the one that won it.
Right. I was just wondering, do we have these in the right order in our packets? Cause Brunix offered 344, then for the Wakanda shop.
Yep.
354 for the Vermillion shop. That seemed.
That was,
my
different
expectation.
timeframes, and so they had to go by
Okay.
the prices for the day.
Okay,
And so
great, great,
Jerry's
great.
beat out Brunix when it was for the million one.
Just making sure. Yep. Just think it's probably a shorter transport for him is what I was thinking. So.
Yep.
All right. Good deal.
So I have a motion. I need a second. Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. And FEMA funds awarded for 2024.
Yeah, FEMA got a check back for $4,857.03 for category Z. So that was the last of that, hopefully. Never again.
Yeah. Then, is that all for that?
Yep,
And then the rural access, the RAFE. grant money?
yep, for Vermillion, for Clay County, we got $6,211.83
That's what they.
for the 1 year,
Is this 67?
or 67,000.
Oh, okay.
What'd I say?
So 6,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what is-
Yeah, I was like, man,
$67,211.83.
Thank you.
And that,
I was like, oh,
Is that
I
what we
read that
got?
wrong.
right now then, or is that total? Cause we had a little carryover.
That is just what we received this year.
That's the new allotment, right? Yeah.
Then what we carried over was 23,950.17 cents.
So that gets us back in the area of being able to.
Yes. Yeah, so a total of 91,162.
My understanding is that Department of Revenue will distribute the funds August first. Agencies must submit their 5-year plan, so townships by August 31st.
Actually, I already received the money.
Great. Oh, we've already received.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
And then local agencies must submit funding, so townships must submit funding applications to the county by October 31st. Make sure everybody's aware of.
Yeah.
Always sneaks up on us.
Yep, and we've been a little wishy-washy on process on these, I think, and so I think that we have told all previous applicants that their unapproved applications are still in the pile. Is that everybody else's recollection? I'm just unclear on
That was
whether
after the last, that was when we were doing the last.
that was 2 years ago. So as of right now, everybody
Is-
needs to reapply if they want any of these funds. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so then what are your notice plans on that? Are you talking to the town?
I just gotta send a letter out to the townships and just make them aware of it.
Rules,
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with him. It's all us. So whatever our rules
all
are.
right. So we need to make sure we get our handbook out and maybe review that for the next meeting and just make sure we know what's going on.
August 31st is when they have to submit by, so. it's Just a couple months away.
The plan or the 5-year?
Your 5-year small improvement plans must be submitted by August 31st,
But their application has to be,
October 31st.
now, does it have to be a new 5-year plan? Or can it be within the last 5 years?
I think that would be in the discretion of this board, so long as it's satisfied with what it receives.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up that.
Yeah. I can do a little review as well in anticipation of our next meeting to just talk about that process.
Yeah,
Cause there's statutes, the handbook reference statutes, and sometimes statute reads a little different than handbook, so I can do a review. We've done that before.
I think it'd be really helpful for this round of applications if we have some sort of a form, some sort of an application that somebody could download a PDF and fill out so that everybody's filling out like the same piece of paper and we're asking everybody for the same information. There's things about like impact and things like that that we've ignored in previous cycles, but since these are limited funds, you know, one township could complain that we didn't follow process if we didn't. So I just want to make sure that the line for the handbook a little better. Can.
You have that on the next agenda anyway.
Yeah, if we add that to the next agenda.
It
I can
is.
postpone there. Fantastic, great.
And Carrie, we have the clerks, all the township clerks emails, right?
Yes, maybe not emails, but we definitely have addresses.
Okay.
I think we've got emails for just about everybody now.
Well, if we just have the clerks, that's all those are the only ones we really need. They're gonna be handling it. So the 5-year plan for public hearings for us though, right? Your
Yep.
office?
Yep.
I am, back in February, I emailed all of you the Rafe handbook as well as the applicable state laws. I'm just gonna bump that to you again, so you'll have it.
So do we need anything else for that 5-year plan then today?
Nope, I put it in the paper the June 11th and 18th and set it up for the July 7th.
And we got a driveway application for Chris Anderson at 29974 Greenfield Road.
Yep, went and looked at that and informed him that he's gonna need a 24-inch culvert in there. So he agreed. Everything looked good.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I did have a question on this. Is it too late?
I think you can ask that question at this point.
Is he the landowner?
Nope, he's just putting it in for the landowner.
We've always had the landowners do this because it's their property.
Okay.
At this point, I know, I would just, I think that to be in compliance with procedure, I think you would just want to rescind that motion. I know this has been voted on, vote on that recension. And then move forward, whoever you see forward, if you want to table it or.
I think we should, because this isn't, I mean, we usually have, the landowner's the one that's responsible. Because they're the ones we're gonna have to come back on if anything's done wrong.
Okay.
Move to rescind the previous motion for the acceptance of the culvert.
So Chris Anderson does not own land.
I'll second.
No, he's a contractor. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. So yeah, he's not the landowner. He's doing this for something.
Okay. He paid for it too, didn't he?
Yep.
Which is, I mean, it's whoever the landowner is. I mean, this is easy enough to fix.
You have
Okay.
to have, and then it's okay when we pay it. Or Chris, or should. the-
Well, that guy, I guess I don't care how they do it as long as we get the check. Chris will bill the guy one way or another. But we need that guy's signature on this application.
Sure. Okay.
So we already have to check as long as everything is smooth with the landowner and he signs that.
Yeah, because the check will be between Chris and the landowner.
Okay, perfect.
It's just, we can't have the landowner come back going, well, I didn't approve that.
Okay.
So. And I wasn't quite looking at it quick enough to realize that it wasn't his. So I'll just leave that. So we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes.
Now I would have discussion and make a motion if you see appropriate to table, or make some other action.
I'll move to table this pending the owner's signature.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Both same sign, motion passes.
Can I say anything for like the ditch board? Just, or,
Ditch board's not on here.
okay,
We can put it on the next meeting.
okay.
If you got a personal, congratulations on that wedding of your child. Oh, thank you.
You guys have a good day?
You do. Carrie. Audit report.
Yes, so I included in your packet, the certification from the post-election audit. We audited the Southeast 2 ward for the governor's race and the District 17, state representative race. And, there were no discrepancies found between the tabulation and, hand counting the ballots.
Excellent.
Do you need a motion for us to accept that or are we
No.
good? Okay.
Nope, I just have to report on it.
Request for some, or well, Mike, your juvenile.
Right, so as I mentioned just a little bit ago, and Andy was here, we're entering year 3 of that 3-year grant that we are connected with Union County on for a juvenile diversion coordinator position. It's being ran through the Boys and Girls Club right now. So this, if this board approves funding for or the request for funding to the county, again, it's 100% compensation. The county pays nothing. It ends though June 30th of 2027, at which point there will be no additional funding available through this state grant. I don't have our numbers we're not quite done with this fiscal year, but I think we're a little bit lower than we were last year. Remember, the states were compensating us at a rate of $750 per successful juvenile diversion. And we have certainly increased our success, both our juvenile diversion numbers and the success rate having this juvenile diversion coordinator. I expect the same at the end of this year 2 cycle. It's not paying for itself by any means, but we are serving more juveniles through diversion programming, keeping them out of places like JDC, keeping them out of the courtroom when appropriate, and allowing for age appropriate diversion opportunities, which have been successful. I would say that we in the office have been very pleased with the work that we're receiving from Boys and Girls Club. We're also pleased with the results of even more truthfully, we're pleased with the results that the programming is providing to children. So this is a request for that support. Again, it's year 3 of this 3-year grant cycle, and no compensation request from the county through this, and it'll fund the position through the end of June of 2027. Similar to Andy, I didn't include anything in my 2027 grant for a juvenile diversion coordinator. With this grant from the federal government kind of pending, I held off on that. I think worst case scenario, I now have staffing where for the 6 months of 2027, we could continue serving youth. And see what that looks like through the second part of 2027 to see if we're capable of handling that with the staff that we have in office right now, since you guys provided for an additional support staff person for me a few months ago. So she's busy, but we've talked about it inside the office and have said that if we don't get this additional federal grant, we can buckle down and see what that looks like with the staffing we have, and it's just for a 6-month time frame. So ultimately, that's kind of a secondary conversation that I'll throw your way again at budget time, but you won't see that request in there either. So
I'm excited about it. I think it's a fantastic program. Is there something about it in our packet?
oh shoot,
I
this was one that needed signature prior to today. So Travis and I got together. I can provide it to you guys. It's the same application you guys have reviewed
Yeah.
the last 2
I didn't have
years.
any concerns about it. I just like to lay my eyes on things, but
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. Copy paste. I can send it over.
Yeah, no, I think it's a wonderful program. I'm excited that it's being impactful, and I love to see the numbers about the impact. I think that direct impact that we can multiply by $750 is nice, but I think that the indirect impact I expect it really does pay for itself. In the long term, and even in the short term, if we keep somebody out of JDC, that's like $500 a night. Yeah, certainly. Thank you.
A discussion regarding the 2027 budget.
So I
Anything?
have this in there just for you guys to talk about, to be able to discuss the budget, any potential opt-out, any potential Senate Bill 96 sales tax, since that's all kind of in our timeline right now,
If we were have to do an opt-out, when's the day we have to do it by?
July 15th.
Have you printed out the budgets?
No, I didn't print those.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else on the budget that they want to talk about today?
I don't like it. It's tighter than.
I don't either.
It's tighter than we'd like it to be. I expect that, we have I believe we have a July 7th meeting scheduled, which I will be,
Yes.
I'll be in attendance. I am going to be traveling in July, and so the meeting that is 2 weeks after that, I will be in attendance. So that will be the 21st. So I'll be missing the one on the 21st, but I'll be here for the opt-out discussion, so. The the pay increases that we have in this budget are set at 5%, is that correct?
Yes,
So a good thing would be to get CPI, you know, get an estimate of what actual cost of living is for comparison. Just want to, I know it's varied a lot this last year, but it's a good thing to have.
It's capped at 3.
What's that?
CPI is capped at 3 though, right?
No,
the
no,
state,
our budget.
yeah, the state caps it at 3,
The state caps it as.
and it's 2.5 for 2027, actually.
So that's the question you were asking. right?
No, my question was, you know, I think that part of my kind of theory of trying to make the budget is that we pay people appropriate compensation for their role and their seniority. And then we try to keep up with cost of living, because otherwise everybody's getting paid a little bit less than what we thought was fair for them last year if we don't manage to keep up with inflation, right? Their dollars doesn't work for them. So I think that a target that I have, which isn't always possible, is to try to increase salaries in keeping with inflation. So just trying to, it's never possible to exactly hit that mark, but trying to get that data in. So, you know, if we see that inflation ran 7% last year, at least we're conscious of that. You know, I don't know if we can do a 7%, but if inflation really only ran like 1%, you know, if we really kind of tamped it down, then I think that if I feel more comfortable going with something less than a 5% increase, you know, if it's more in alignment with, because that's what that, you know, when you look at that increase, that's what I understand that to represent. So.
Anything else on the budget?
The 2026 cost of living adjustment is 2.8.
2.8 is where that right now. I was expecting it would be somewhere around 3. I know it's gone up and down a bit.
We'll talk about the resolution. Unless anybody has anything now. On the resolution for the opt-out, just have to wait till next week or next meeting on the 7th. And then Senate Bill 96, county sales tax. We discussed it a little bit before. Any more thoughts?
I don't like how we're doing it, but I think we have to. That's my opinion. You gotta do something for the property owners.
Yeah, I agree. Process kind of sucks and, you know, Travis has said in the past, you know, should have been a statewide thing. Out of count. But I think the relief be good for the property owners.
And it doesn't have to be permanent. I mean, if they come up with something better, you can always
Go.
change it.
It's, you know,
And
you
it
said
doesn't hurt.
before it's another burden. Lower income, but it also. Everybody uses services, so it spreads out the cost of services to everyone that uses them. Uses our roads, uses our services. So that's a fair shake also. I would support it.
And for anybody that's watches this video, it's a net zero to the county. This doesn't give us more money in our budget. No, it goes directly back to the owner occupied, unless we collect more, then it goes to commercial and ag.
Yeah, I was really glad that everybody was able to attend the district meeting. I was really grateful to the Department of Revenue for sending down a couple experts to talk to us and all the other commissioners. I was surprised in that meeting when Wendy Simbler asked whether any counties were considering the tax. I think we were the only county whose hands went up, and I was quite surprised that Minnehaha County is not at this time considering implementing this tax. That was a little bit of a shift for me. I wasn't expecting that our neighboring counties were not taking this on. So Union County, Yankton County, even, you know.
Janeth Yankton said that
Yankton said they were,
Yeah.
they
they were
expressed interest in it.
Yeah,
They
had
didn't say
interest.
no.
Okay.
I think Bon Home said they were interested.
Did Bonham? Okay, I didn't see that.
We were talking about it back in the commissioner.
Yeah. So, and I think that everybody got a lot more context of like how it's implemented at that.
Michael, I thought I'd written my notes, but I just don't. When does the sunset on the 4.2 sales tax to 4.5?
That's July first as well.
Next year.
27.
Of
Yes,
27.
right.
And that was gonna go back up anyway.
Right, that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody's acting like it's a new tax, but it was sunsetting.
Was.
And they couldn't agree to leave it in place, so.
So then if we adopt this, we'll go to 5%,
Yes.
7%.
Plus potentially more for some things, right? Like food and, but isn't there an additional tourism tax on some things or something like that too? I might be wrong. Thought there was extra.
I don't know if they implemented that. I think one of the governor candidates has expressed
Talking.
wanted to raise that rate. Do you have something you would like to?
No, I was just kind of thought I'd come up and sit at the table. I did reach out to some of the treasurers this morning in our little group. And we've got possible considerations, but a couple of no's. You know, like Turner County isn't going to right now. They're gonna wait, see how that school tax helps before they go down this road. Lincoln County had said no initially, but now they're gonna discuss it today just to see, or whenever their next meeting is. And same thing with Hutchinson County. They had initially said yes, now they're thinking no, so
Lincoln County will be an interesting one because come January, they'll have 3 new commissioners
yeah,
because they have to appoint one.
Right,
The next month,
right.
and then they have 2 new ones
yeah.
that were elected.
So things
Could be.
could change next year, but she didn't know. Initially in the meeting, she's like, no. They've said no, but now they're,
And one of the Minnehaha County commissioners said, no, they won't do it. No, that's wrong.
yeah. Yeah. So I didn't get a firm
Did
answer
that-
from anybody.
That percentage thing that the state had sent out in Minnehaha counties, wasn't it like
96%.
6%? So,
There could be a change in commissioners there too.
yeah. Is that, I mean,
That's real money.
that's huge.
Yeah. I think, you know, I've spent a lot of time trying to dig into this, and I think, on the pros side, I think that it is, it's valid, to point to really look closely at what is the, you know, what is the additional expense? You know, so if a person spends $100 on groceries and we implement this tax, they spend an extra 50 cents, you know? So I think thinking about different people's income levels, you know, I think that most households are probably going to spend at least $20,000 on sales taxable goods in our county, I think. So, you know, you start looking at that, and it's about $100 a year for a family that is paying $20,000 in sales taxable purchases in our county. So, you know, that to me, you know, $100 is $100. We're talking about taxing people. You can't get out of this. We're forcing you to pay this money. So, you know, I think that you never want to throw those things around. But that is, it could be worse, I guess, is maybe the right way to look at it. But on the other side of that, I just continue to have real issues with what I see as the regressivity of this tax. I think it is a pretty regressive tax. So it provides you get more benefit if you have more wealth in our county. If you own $1 million house, you get twice as much benefit from this if you have a $500,000 house. And the people that don't get any relief and that are only seeing a tax increase are our renters. And that to me seems unfair. And I really took to heart the comments that were shared about, some of our renters don't pay any taxes, property taxes indirectly. Some of our renters are in tax exempt student housing. So I reached out to to a representative of student housing to get some numbers there, because that was an area that I didn't know what that impact would be. And I also looked into the Greek houses. I didn't know whether those were tax exempt or not. So those are on the tax rolls. So people that are in fraternities and sororities are paying indirectly. And then, the student housing, on campus housing right now, the population is about 1900 something, just shy of 2000. I was curious about what is that breakdown demographic. So helpfully they shared that with me. What year people were. Anybody at any year could potentially be in student housing. They only have, I think, 6 graduate students currently in student housing. 83% of those are freshmen or sophomore. So to me, that kind of shifted, my concern away from that population. I'm not so concerned that the freshmen and the sophomores at our university at the very beginning of their life are maybe not paying into our property tax system. I was talking to a commissioner at the district meeting, and I really appreciated his perspective that it used to be that the older generations expected that they helped the younger generations. And that was his issue. He was a Bonham County commissioner, and his issue with this was specifically that. He's like, I kind of feel like this is people who have got their houses and now they're saying, we want the young folks to pitch in a little bit more. And that one kind of landed with me. So it's not an easy decision. I personally would really appreciate this tax relief, and I know a lot of people who own their homes that would really appreciate it. The projection of 56% reduction for owner occupied homes would be a substantial reduction of our levy. That'd be, saving everybody $250, $3 $1,000. So, but at this time, I'm kind of with maybe the Turner County folks, just kind of, I want to hold off and wait and see how this plays out in some other places, see if 245 stands and we get that. And also essentially 250 off, I think that was what they was saying. It was like, or $2 maybe, right? It was like reduction from a max mill levy of 250 down to 67 cents is what they're expecting the input back to be. So that'd be really substantial too. So I think that in light of that, being current law, I'm currently in opposition to implement this for our county at this time. So
Where'd you get that $20,000 number from?
just honestly, it came from the Howdy Shell throwing out $100,000. So he was framing it in terms of people coming to, and so this is the Secretary of the Department of Revenue. He had a call, I attended, and he was sharing, people were coming to him and saying, hey, if you implement this, I'm just gonna end up paying as much in sales tax as I was in my property taxes. And he was telling those people, no, listen, you have to spend $100,000 on sales taxable goods in your county to get $500 of additional sales tax through this, right? So if you're talking about, saving $2,000 on your tax bill, or $1,000 on your tax bill or something like that, are you seriously going to be spending $200,000 or $400,000 in your county on sales taxable goods? Lots of things aren't sales taxable goods. So he was framing it like that. And then I do not expect that there are very many renters in our county that are spending $100,000 on sales taxable goods in our county. So I was just trying to dial that back a little bit and imagine a lower income family and what would be a generous idea of what they might be spending. To try to guess what an impact would be for like a low income renting family. That's what I'm most concerned about here. So,
But you're saying 20,000?
no, 20,000 on stuff in the community. Paying to I don't know, buy stuff at Walmart, get your clothes, get your food, get everything we spend sales tax on. Most stuff.
What are the property owners spending on most stuff? They're spending that too.
Yeah.
We're property owners buy groceries and
Yeah.
Walmart and everything else too.
Yeah, I mean, Secretary Howdyshell's point was you're not going to come close to spending as much more on sales tax if you're a homeowner as you will likely get in relief. So his point is that this will be skewed towards relief for homeowners. You know, and if you are a homeowner, you will have a net benefit from this very likely. That was his, that was his point.
That's,
So,
that's the intent of it. It's
the whole
called
point.
property
It is.
tax relief.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I would be more comfortable with this if it was applied to both commercial and owner occupied, you know, at least then I think that I could point to saying, hey, there's a chance, you know, at least there'll be less pressure to raise your rent, you know, and so therefore you, a renter, are going to potentially get some benefit from the additional amount you're going to be spending on sales tax. So.
Well, I know for myself and other egg producers, this will be a bill. Cause I'm not gonna get enough relief, cause we gotta pay sales tax on machinery. And any other goods that have sales tax that we don't get to pass on. So for the ag community, it'll be a bill for most people,
But your machinery should be ag tax, not sales tax, right?
it's the 4.2, which this will be added on.
Is that correct? I don't believe that's correct. I don't think that this,
Everything that's sold that has sales tax, this will be added to.
do you know?
I don't, other than that was my understanding as well, that if it had a sales tax, this would apply.
That's a pretty, yeah, I was mistaken about that, if that is the case.
Yeah,
That's a pretty substantial
It's added to the 4.2. I know that.
for. Because generally the reason that the ag tax is just called something different, even though it's the same number, is like a municipal sales tax is not added on to that. Because the municipal sales tax is a sales tax and that is an ag tax. And so you don't pay an extra 2% if you buy that equipment in town versus out of town.
Fine, but it's county tax. So anything sold in the county.
But this is not a new tax. That is why we get to implement it and still be in alignment with the.
No, it's a new tax. They've given us
Well,
the authority to do it.
Don't tell the interstate compact on taxation that, because I mean, that was the question that I had at the meeting, because we previously have been told we couldn't implement a outside a municipality only 2% tax so that the whole county paid the same taxes, you know, that
Right,
was.
we can't. But
Right.
now the government or the legislature has given us the authority to implement this 0.5 cent sales tax.
Well, and the reason they told that I was told we couldn't have that authority previously was because it would make us not in alignment with the interstate compact. And so then that's why I asked Wendy Simler that. I said, well, or I'm sorry, Vince Riley, that was, well, how is this okay? And we couldn't have implemented a 2% tax that only is applied to sales outside of a municipality that is charging, you know, if municipality is charging it, you know, then they're exempt from the county tax. And then that way, everybody buying an Amazon purchase, you know, 2 miles out of town is paying the same rate as somebody in town. You know, that was something that a few years ago I thought sounded like a fair way maybe to raise some additional revenue for the county and shift something off property taxes. And I was told at that time you couldn't do it because it would be a new tax. And so Vince Riley said, this is not a new tax. This is just a modification of an existing tax. I don't know how.
What existing tax is this?
I was as surprised as you were to hear that was the answer to that question. This definitely seems like a entity that was never allowed to charge
Yeah,
sales taxes previously, and now we can't. So
we've never been able to, so I don't know how we can say.
to loop back around, do we have like, you're both, you know, you two, I think are probably fairly expert on this. So this is also going to be applied, if we implement SB 96 as tax, it'll also be applied to ag taxable goods in the county.
And vehicles?
Vehicles is an excise tax, which is completely different. Don't ask me how to explain that, but it is. It's an excise tax. It's not a sales tax.
Just reading the bill, language of the bill, which is, it says section 5, that a new section be added to a new chapter in Title 10. That reads, a county may impose a gross receipt tax not to exceed 0.5% on the gross receipts of all sales of tangible personal property, any products transferred electronically, and services that are taxable pursuant to chapters 10-45 and 10-46 in the county. So we're gonna have to go look at 10-45 and 10-46. That's gonna likely be.
Wouldn't vehicles be tangible property?
Yes.
But I suppose it all depends on what 45 and 46.
10-45 and 10-46.
Gotcha.
So,
Yep.
so I hadn't thought about that. So would this, does this apply to vehicle sales? Does the SB 96 additional, the additional half penny, if we implement this, apply to vehicle sales in the county?
I have not heard that it will, no. That's a whole, whenever they change the tax on a vehicle, that's a whole nother avenue that they go down, so, and that's, like I said, because we call it an excise tax versus a sales tax.
Online, it says South Dakota farm machinery, attached units, irrigation equipment used exclusively for agricultural purposes are exempt from standard sales and use taxes. Instead, they're subject to a specific agricultural excise tax because SB 96 county tax mirrors state sales tax law. The ag excise tax is fully excluded from SB 96 county option.
I'm not gonna be able to read it. There's probably close to 150 or more statutes inside of 1045 alone, but it's titled retail sales and service tax. 1046 is use tax. I would like to imagine the Department of Revenue has a great understanding of what taxes will be taxed and what will not be taxed. I imagine that's probably, and it's not thought out well in that brochure, because that brochure just lists what's the language of the bill. But defining what is and that's going to be included is the only way that Department of Revenue came up with these numbers is having true understanding of what will and will not be taxed. So they have that understanding. The question is who.
And I guess then, in that sense, that makes me think that ag tax things that are exempt because they specifically said based on the taxable sales in 2025 is where all those numbers came from. So that was the heading. So.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things to do is argue against myself. So here we go.
Read the last paragraph. So Rhonda, do you want to share how your office feels about this?
My office. I've said it all along. I have mixed emotions on it. I'm all for a relief to our taxpayers. I also would kind of like to see how it's gonna work, So that's where I'm kind of like you. I argue back and forth. It's like, I want the relief. I want to see everybody else get the relief. But on the other hand, is it really gonna work as well as we think I don't know. My girls are the same way. They really don't know either. We talk about it every once in a while and it's hard to wrap your head around this big program, without having seen someone else do it or, you know, proof that it works somewhere else. I guess I'm just kind of one of those. I like to know before I jump in. But I'm all for tax relief for our constituents, don't, by all means, you know, but the money's got to come somewhere. So once again, we're going to be paying a little extra tax over here to offset our tax over here. So I guess it's just, let's pick the best of the two evils and let's go that way. So you guys have got a big job ahead of you because I will follow your lead. But I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't know. I'm just very hesitant either way. So. Glenn's asked me that 100 times and that's what I keep telling.
And I believe, I don't know if it came from Dave or Glenn, but it looks like there's an explanation from Governor Road, which does, I think, very clearly state that agriculture pursuant to 1046E is excluded, and 1046E is excise tax on farm machinery, attachment units, and irrigation equipment. So anything that falls under 1046E.
Very last sentence.
Which would also make sense because that's not found inside of 1045 or 1046. 1046E is separate.
I stand corrected. Well, I believe you.
Yeah. It says exactly what he said it would say. I was like, Mr. Witness. So,
So I'm gonna,
Yeah.
this is just, because. So we've still got a governor race open. Can this all go away? If Doden wins?
Legislature will have to do it.
Okay, that's my question. So
Yeah, this is
all this,
legislation that was passed and
It's already passed and
It's passed, it goes into effect July 1, but if you remember how all of this timing works, there's really no action that a board can take until July 1 because that's when it becomes effective. You have to submit your notice to the Department of Revenue within 90 days, at least 90 days prior to either January 1 or July 1. And those are the only two dates that the tax can become effective. So if this board were to implement it, and you meet the timing requirement to be in compliance to get that notice to the Department of Revenue, January 1, this would go into effect. Obviously, the legislator can modify, change, or completely get rid of any law at any time. And then they can make the determination as to whether or not it goes into effect immediately under an emergency provision clause, or if it waits until July 1 of the following year to take effect. So all legislation is up to be reconsidered at any time.
and that's a good reminder. So the timeline, they got into all the details of it, and unfortunately I'm a little bit fuzzy in my recollection right now, but so if we implemented it, July 1st, we would begin collecting the sales tax on January 1st of 2027, and then we would be collecting that for a year in a fund, but people would still pay their same property taxes next year that they were expecting. So there would be a year where people would be paying both an additional sales tax and paying their same property taxes. And then the following year, this would begin to be applied. So
Correct.
in 2028, it would begin to be applied and then
Correct.
show up on your tax bill. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make, that's what I thought if I recall, but there's a lot of information. So.
Yeah, the soonest we would see the relief would be 28.
And probably for 28, it would reflect 11 months worth of collection. Because they have to send out those tax notices before the end of the year, or have them figured.
Well-
So December of next year, you wouldn't have that money to figure it out. It would be fully implemented for 29's taxes in a full year. You wouldn't get your sales tax receipts for December of 27 until sometime in 28. And the tax notices would have to go out, right?
Well, we're gonna be, if I'm understanding this correctly, if we start collecting in January,
Yep.
of 27. Going forward, twice a month, we're gonna start to receive those funds in our holding pot. And so well, we typically don't issue taxes till the last week of December. And, so potentially we could have almost the full year.
You
know.
could, but if you wanna make it simple,
Mhm.
your end would end in December every year. Just for
True.
simplification,
True.
because otherwise I think there'd be too much of somebody could miss something if you didn't have a hard date.
Yep. So the first year would be, as you say, 11 months. Going forward after that, it would be 12. Yeah, that's true.
Otherwise, I think you're gonna hate it. Because you're gonna be waiting the last minute.
Well, we do hate that, don't we, Carrie?
We do. Happens every year.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. It'd probably be 11 months that first year.
Sales tax not due till the 20th of the next month, so.
Sure.
Oh, so you're taxed in, just say January, isn't due till the 20th of February?
So you might even actually have to go 10 months.
You just cut it off that first of December. You'd still have to wait till the 20th. Well, that's when the state gets it, it's the 20th. I'll put everybody for you, it'd still be the end of the year. You're still gonna hate it.
Yeah.
The first year is gonna be,
First year will be the hardest year, but after that, it'll be what we have.
I think the idea that we could repeal this in the future is very optimistic assumption of how that process might work. I think that if trying to that would be hard.
well, you'd repeal it if they come up with something better.
Okay.
And hopefully they would just implement it as something to replace it with, not add on to it.
Mhm.
Still feel like that would have just done it for the state level. It'd be
Oh.
so much smoother. This is absolutely ridiculous that this falls on us. But here we are.
The implementation is, was not expecting quite how much additional information they needed from us. I didn't realize they need this like list of every address so that we make sure that every address is on their rolls and we have to have a map showing all those and.
Which Lynette says she has a,
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
so I was like, perfect.
And if somebody's not on there, then they're probably dodging their property taxes. So I want
Correct.
them on there. I don't know if that list comprehensive either way, but.
Well, sorry for Irene, this goes through. Two counties that don't do it, we would,
Oh, yeah.
then you really do need your everybody's address.
Yeah.
Which they like, that was guys.
Over to grandma's house across the street to order your Amazon stuff.
Oh, 100%. There will be a lot of that. Any other questions, comments? Thoughts? What they want to do?
So if the public's listening in, that is one thing that I, when we were first considering this, we had heard Secretary Howdigel say, here's a clever workaround where you could make this auto referred, but now more recently, we've heard Wendy Similar say, don't do that. That's probably going to, listen to your state's attorney. I see Michael nodding over here. So, we don't have the option at the county level to just put this in front of the voters. And I think especially with so many of us kind of teetering on the edge and understanding, the pros and cons of this, that would make me a lot more comfortable if the voters of Clay County said, yes, we want this additional tax on ourselves. Let's go, so I want clarity on the process. If we approve this, So if we were to pass an ordinance in July, from the date of the second reading, this would be a legislative decision by this body. All of our legislative decisions are referable. So what would be, if there's people watching this and they're like, I feel strongly that I want this before the voters. What's the timeline on that? Is it 3 weeks for gathering signatures
I believe it's generally 20 days.
Okay.
I would have to dig deeper.
Okay.
Maybe the lawyer answer of the.
Well, and that's okay. Anybody who cares enough can go look that up and or come down and ask in the office. But I wanted to put that out there too, that is,
Trying to remember.
it's not an option for us, but it is an option for the public. So
I'm trying to remember from the last time we had this. It was the wheel tax. Where we had a referendum, or a petition circulated. I believe it was 20 days. And of course, that one was not successful, but I think it's 20.
So I believe I found SDCL 7-18A-29 is publication of notice of adoption of revision, revised ordinance. This is a.
yeah, this is a revised ordinance. Yeah.
Effective unless referendum invoked. Upon the adoption of an ordinance and revision by the board, the auditor shall publish a notice once each week for successive weeks that an ordinance in revision was adopted 20 days after the completed publication of the notice, unless the referendum shall have been invoked. Such ordinance shall become effective.
So they got 20 days plus 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Correct. Generally. Yeah, it looks like 7-18A-16, time of filing referendum petition. A petition to refer an ordinance or resolution subject to referendum may be filed with the auditor within 20 days after publication of the ordinance or resolution in the last to publish official county newspaper. So it's 20 days. I'm not sure exactly of the timing from publication. I don't want to provide legal advice, of course, to the general public, but if they look inside of 7-18A, it appears that is likely the prevailing authority. And it seems that 20 days shows up. It's just a matter of 20 days from what time.
Thank you.
Well, I thought you read 20 days from last publication.
Another statute I read talks about multiple publications. This just talks about publication of the ordinance in the last to publish official county newspaper. So not a second publication, just a last to publish newspaper.
Of the past ordinance, not of the meetings.
Correct. There's different statutes that are, and one of them is kind of control, but without providing legal advice,
Yeah.
they go look inside of here. 20 days is important.
Well, the state's written a resolution, so we don't have to have one.
The only thing we would have to do, in my opinion, is there are some items in that ordinance that have been left as X's because they're not sure where they were going to fit in the SDCL. So my recommendation would be to not make our own, to not modify what the state has provided if this board were to move forward. My recommendation would be to fill in the blanks that the Department of Revenue has provided this to counties for their use. And if there's an issue with it, we'll all kind of be in the same boat.
And I want to lift back up again too, that I think I'd asked this question previously, and generally everybody seemed to think if we implement this, we want to go all the way. Like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do the full half penny, but that is totally at our option. So we could do a 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.3%, 0.4%, 0.5%, anything in there. And, that would mitigate the impact, so if we're concerned about any negative impacts, it mitigates those negative impacts. It does mitigate the positive ones as well. But I think that if people had if we're talking about potentially a 56% reduction, I think that people, might appreciate a 10% or a 20% reduction, you know, so I mean, if we, just to put that out there as we're considering the exact form, I feel like I'm hearing adequate votes probably to pass this ordinance based on the discussion we've had thus far, but I just want to throw that back out there again, is that, you know, we don't have to do the full 0.5.
So Carrie, if we were to move forward with the first reading. How long do we have to publish? First one?
So you have to publish it 10 days in advance. So for us to get anything into the paper, it's gonna be next week, not this week,
Okay.
because their deadline would have already passed.
So the quickest we're gonna be able to do this is the 30th of July. Because we won't have a.
Yeah.
Well. Jeffrey and Dave are gone on the 21st, correct? Because after the 7th, that's our next meeting. So, and then we have to meet on the 30th because the governor's runoff is on the
Mhm.
28th.
Right.
So that would be our first. Everybody back on the 30th?
Yes.
Yep, no. Back till the second. But I can try to zoom out. I plan on being able to zoom in.
But yeah, we should be at least be able to have a quorum, so yeah, I'll be here.
So first reading, we can have them, or do you wanna wait?
No,
Okay.
I'll zoom in.
Is that what we wanna do, is have a first reading on the 30th? We do, I'll entertain a motion. Seems to be the quickest that we can get it on. Published and everything.
So, a motion to move forward.
To have a first reading and at what rate? You want the full half cent?
I'll make a motion to have the first reading at, the half cent rate,
On July 30th.
July.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Pose same sign. Motion passes.
I'll work on updating that ordinance to what I believe is in compliance with state law once it goes into effect July 1. But we should be able to look at where that statute's gonna put those X's, see where law is gonna go into effect on July 1. We can then run it on July 3rd, which is when you said, right, the next newspaper runs.
Yeah.
It needs to be 10 days before.
Right.
Just gotta figure out what time.
And I believe it's 2
Well,
applications, with the final one being 10
Oh.
days before.
so
I'd have to go back and look at the statute, but I
Yeah.
think we usually publish twice.
No, I'm gonna be straight north through like Havre, Montana. Oh, that'd be in Bam. Calgary. Should be an hour ahead of that.
Karen and I'll take a look. We'll make sure we're on the same page. Then make sure that those are published. Those are awesome.
Going back to the budget discussion real quick. Do you want me to refigure the budget with a lower cost of living? Or leave it as it is?
I think you can leave it as it is for right now.
Okay, and then we did receive those 2 funding requests after I prepared the budget, so add those in. I added in the rest of the ones we had received, so I'm assuming just for uniformity, add those in.
You can.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
we can vote that day on amounts and, right?
Yeah. Well, we can do it up till September.
yeah.
We can change.
Yeah.
So the main question is just, do we need an opt-out is the urgent one. Yep.
right.
And I'm hoping to squeeze it tight enough that we don't opt out. But
Yeah.
no promises.
And then just for reference, we hadn't had a date posted on our application for when those were due. So those ones that came in, the people were just unaware that there was a date because they pulled the applications early enough that there was no published date. So I think that they were unaware, so.
Yeah, and we had left it open previously in case there was some kind of, emergency funding need at some point during the year that they could grab that application off the website and apply for it. But we do have a deadline out there now for budget purposes, so.
What is that?
I believe we said June 1st,
Okay.
if I remember right.
Anything else for the budget? Then Jeffrey, you had something on CCOG?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I actually forgot. I appreciate it. So the CCOG board meets 4 times a year. I have one of the appointed seats. So elected bodies have a certain number of appointed seats and that when they need a quorum to do business, it needs to be specifically a quorum of those appointed seats. So the next meeting is on July 8th. And I had cleared my calendar for what was the original date for that, but they didn't have some detail of an audit done. And so they moved the date to July 8th, and I am not going to be able to attend. It's a pretty big body. It probably is just fine. But when I notified them of that, Sophie Johnson wrote back and said, well, do you guys have an alternate you want to send up? And I said, oh, well, what are the requirements for an alternate? And she said, well, it's anybody you want. You know, you're the body, you get to name whoever you want. So thinking about that, the CCOG board discusses a lot of kind of confidential information. So there's a bit of an onboarding process, and there's some documents you need to sign, confidentiality documents and things like that. So thinking about that, I thought it might be burdensome to one of the other commissioners to go and fill that role. But I realized that Betty Smith had previously been the CCOG representative for quite a while. So she would have already signed all those. She's familiar with their business. So I reached out to her and I said, Betty, I'm going to, ask that this be on the agenda for discussion. But would you be willing to serve as an alternate if the commission appointed you to an alternate position for this meeting? So the question before this body is, do we wish to appoint an alternate for the July 8th meeting of CCOG meeting that's coming up? Just, be absent. I was going to lift up the name of Betty Smith as somebody I thought would be an easy fit for that, and she'd be willing to. But it's up to this body. If anybody wants to, they can name anybody they want. If it's somebody other than someone who's previously served on it, we might just want to make sure we check in with CCOG and find out if there's anything that they need to sign before they attend. So it's in person in Sioux Falls. They're usually 4 or 5 p.m. I keep forgetting right now. But it's a very well-run organization, so it's primarily just an oversight role.
I think if we're gonna have an alternate, it should be a commissioner, somebody that would answer. Somebody that has at least. I'd hate to have anybody else speaking for us that
Sure.
wasn't a commissioner. So personally,
I'm available that day.
so
Anybody game, or do you want to just leave it? Just, Sophie wasn't like, oh, this is gonna break the whole meeting if I haven't yet been at one of their meetings that was canceled due to lack. So,
How long are the meetings?
generally about an hour.
I can go.
All right.
I'm open on the 8th. Just let me know what I gotta do, where I gotta go. Who I need to contact.
who need a motion for that?
I was gonna recommend, recommend since this is, cause this is one of those annual appointments, right?
It is.
So I would make a motion to essentially appoint Dave as an alternate for this specific meeting. If that's what the board's looking to do.
So move.
So, a motion and a second, any further discussion? So we're only making him an alternate for one meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I
Alright,
Opposed, same sign, the motion passes. Everybody get to see vouchers,
just briefly, but yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Employee handbook update. And this is removing just that section, right?
I have not had a chance to review it. I would just ask that we continue this to the next meeting.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to table the handbook update.
Move to table the handbook update.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. We'll skip to D, informational items. Everybody get to see the monthly reports and recent payroll changes. Looks like we hired a jailer. So I'll entertain a motion. Well, one thing before we go into executive session. So next meeting, Carrie, we'll discuss alternate meeting dates for the end of the month.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. We're in executive session.